Day 1. You are not supposed to be here. You need to say that first because by the time this story is over, you will have said it so many times to so many people that the words will have lost their shape entirely, the way a word does when you repeat it too long in a mirror. You are not supposed to be here. You had a job. You had an apartment with a plant you remembered to water. You had a life that was ordinary in all the ways a life should be ordinary. Then you had one bad week. Specifically, your upstairs neighbor had been dragging furniture across his hardwood floors every night between 11 and midnight for 3 weeks straight. And on the 22nd night, you knocked on his door and told him, calmly and precisely, that if he moved one more chair, you were going to lose your mind. You said it as an expression, a figure of speech. The neighbor, who you had never spoken to before, and who turned out to have a cousin who was a general practitioner, apparently did not take it as a figure of speech. His cousin signed a 72-hour emergency psychiatric hold evaluation form. The evaluating physician at the hospital, who saw 46 patients that shift and spent 8 minutes with you, checked a box. Someone else signed a piece of paper, and now you're wearing a bracelet with a number on it, and a man with keys is walking you down a hallway that smells like industrial cleaner, and something else underneath that the cleaner is trying very hard to cover up. The door closes behind you. You hear the lock turn. You think, this will get sorted out quickly. Surely this will get sorted out quickly. There is a name on a brass plaque in the main hallway. You walk past it without reading it. You will read it later. You will read it many times. Day 3. You have not spoken to a lawyer. You have asked 4 times and been told each time that someone will look into it in a tone that suggests no one will look into it. You have a roommate named Gerald who believes he is receiving transmissions through his left molar and who taps his own cheek rhythmically every 40 minutes throughout the night. You do not sleep. During the day, there are group sessions where a rotating cast of exhausted social workers ask everyone to share how they are feeling, and you say, with great precision and clarity, that you are feeling wrongly committed and would like to discuss the process for contesting your admission, and the social worker writes something down and nods in a way that means she is not going to do anything about it. You notice that the more clearly and calmly you explain that you don't belong here, the more people seem to believe that you do. On the way back from group, you stop and read the plaque for the first time. Hargrove Behavioral Solutions, LLC, established 2009. Below it, a motto in clean serif font, restoring lives through compassionate care. You don't think much about it, not yet. Day 6. You have learned the schedule. Breakfast at 7, meds at 8, group at 10, free time, lunch, free time, group again, dinner, meds, lights out. The meds are the part you fight. They want you to take 2 small pills every morning and every night, and you want to know what they are. And the nurse tells you they will help you feel calmer, and you say you are already calm, and that calm is not actually your problem. And she puts them in a small paper cup and slides them across the counter and looks at you the way people look at someone they've already decided about. You take them eventually, not because you want to, because you have figured out by day 6 that not taking them generates a note in your file, and your file, you are beginning to understand, is the only thing in this building that actually determines what happens to you. You have also noticed something about the pills. They are not quite right, not dangerous, just slightly off, like a radio tuned a hair away from the station. A nurse named Patricia, who has been here 11 years and has the look of someone who has been meaning to quit for 9 of them, changes a dressing on your wrist where the bracelet rubbed, and without quite looking at you, she says, the medications here are whatever the facility's supply contract specifies, not necessarily what any individual patient's chart recommends. You ask what that means. She caps the ointment. She says it means what it means. She leaves. You lie awake that night thinking about the word contract. Day 11. You have a doctor. You see him for 12 minutes every 3 days. He is not a bad man. He is a very tired man who has 43 patients and a calendar that does not have room for any of them to be complicated. You ask what his diagnosis is. He says, adjustment disorder with anxious features. You ask what the discharge criteria are. He pauses, and in that pause, you hear something he is not saying. And then he says, the treatment team will evaluate on a rolling basis and the subject is closed. After he leaves, you find Patricia in the linen room. You ask her directly, who actually decides when someone gets discharged? She folds a sheet with the focus of someone choosing her words. She says the doctors make recommendations. She says the recommendations go to the clinical review committee. You ask who sits on that committee. She says most of them are employed by Hargrove. You say, what is Hargrove exactly? She takes the folded stack and walks to the door, and then she stops with her back to you and says, come find me Thursday after rounds, and she leaves, and you stand in the linen room alone with the smell of institutional detergent and the feeling that you have just pulled a loose thread. Day 13, Thursday, after rounds. Patricia takes you to a supply alcove with a window propped open with a textbook, and she talks quietly and fast, the way someone talks who has been holding something for a long time and finally found a reason to put it down. She tells you about Edward Hargrove, business degree, law degree, no medical training whatsoever. He spent 2 years in the early 2000s doing nothing but reading healthcare billing codes, and what he found was this: involuntary psychiatric holds are almost impossible to legally contest from the inside. Insurance companies pay for them at a higher rate than nearly any other category of inpatient care, and the longer a patient stays, the more the facility collects. He didn't find a loophole. He found a feature. She says he also discovered, buried in a 2003 CMS regulatory update that nobody read, that facilities are not required to use name-brand medications if a generic equivalent exists under contract, and so he struck a deal with a cut-rate pharmaceutical supplier, pocketed the difference on every prescription, and called it operational efficiency. 14 facilities, 6 states, a pharmaceutical kickback dressed up as a cost-saving measure. Doctors who discharged too many patients got performance reviews that ended careers. She watched it happen to a doctor named Harmon 18 months ago. Good doctor. His ward's average stay was too short, and his billing numbers were making the other wards look bad. Gone in 60 days. She says she has been meaning to quit for 9 years. You ask why she stays. She looks out the propped window at the parking lot for a long moment. She says because someone has to be in here, doesn't there? And she picks up her supply cart and goes. Day 26. You wake up and something is wrong. Not emotionally wrong, physically wrong. Your skin is the color of old paper. Your eyes, when you look in the bathroom mirror, are yellow in a way that eyes are not supposed to be yellow. Your abdomen hurts in a way that is new and specific and deeply unfunny. You tell the morning nurse. She takes your temperature, checks your pulse, and makes a phone call. And 40 minutes later, you are in an ambulance, which is the first time in 26 days you have been outside this building. And even through the nausea, you notice the sky, how blue and enormous and indifferent it is, and you think you have never loved a sky more in your entire life. The emergency room is loud and bright and staffed by people who do not know your file and do not work for Hargrove Behavioral Solutions, LLC, and have no opinion about you whatsoever, except that you are a patient in front of them who needs help. A physician named Dr. Okafor runs blood work, orders a liver panel, and comes back 40 minutes later with results and an expression that is professionally neutral in the way that professional neutrality means something is wrong. Hepatotoxicity, liver inflammation, acute, caused by a prolonged course of a medication that is, she says carefully, not typically indicated for adjustment disorder, and that carries a known adverse reaction profile requiring regular blood work monitoring every 2 weeks. She asks when your last blood work was done at the facility. You tell her you were never given blood work at the facility. She writes something down. She asks a second doctor to come in, then a third. They are not Hargrove doctors. They have no contract with Hargrove. They have no billing relationship with Hargrove. They just have your chart, your blood work, and 26 days of medication records. And after 40 minutes of evaluation, the three of them reach a consensus that they deliver to you with the particular discomfort of people who know they are about to blow something wide open. The diagnosis of adjustment disorder with anxious features, they say, is not supported by any assessment they can find in your file. Your psychological evaluation, such as it is, consists of 8 minutes of intake notes from a physician who saw 46 patients that shift. There is no secondary evaluation. There is no corroborating assessment. There is a box that was checked and a prescription that followed from it, and that prescription has given you liver inflammation, and you do not, in their clinical opinion, have the condition you were admitted for. One of them asks if you have a lawyer. You say not yet. He nods slowly. He says you should probably get one. You do not go back to Hargrove. The ER physicians file an emergency petition on your behalf, which, when supported by 3 independent medical assessments contradicting your diagnosis and a documented adverse drug reaction caused by non-indicated medication, turns out to move significantly faster through the legal system than any formal request you could have filed from inside a Hargrove facility. You are discharged from the ER into your own custody 48 hours later. A Hargrove administrator calls your phone twice. You do not answer. You get a lawyer, a good one. 14th floor, sparkling water in the waiting room. You hand over your ER records, the 3 independent assessments, your Hargrove admission file, and everything Patricia told you in the supply alcove, which she is, it turns out, willing to repeat under oath, along with copies of 2 internal safety reviews she has been keeping at home in a folder for 3 years because she had a feeling she was going to need them someday. The safety reviews document 11 other patients who had the same adverse reaction you did. Hargrove's administration buried them rather than report to the State Pharmacy Board as legally required. Patricia also brings the 2003 CMS regulatory update Patricia mentioned, which it turns out does not actually permit the medication substitution Hargrove was making. He hadn't found a feature. He had found what he thought was a feature. What he had actually found was a federal billing fraud charge, a pharmacy board violation, 11 buried adverse reaction reports, and the foundation of a class action lawsuit that expands across 6 states once investigators start pulling threads. Patricia is the lead witness. She has been waiting 3 years to be the lead witness. She is extremely good at it. Hargrove settles on a Tuesday morning, which is the day cowards settle because they know the jury is about to come back. The settlement is $18 million. The terms are not public. The facility closures are. All 14 Hargrove Behavioral Solutions locations ordered to cease operations within 90 days. The plaque in the main hallway comes down. Someone photographs it on the way out and texts it to you. You look at it for a long time. Restoring lives through compassionate care, face down on a linoleum floor. Edward Hargrove's boat is listed for sale 11 days after the settlement. His lawyers advised it. It is the same boat from the framed photograph on the administrator's desk, the one you noticed on your way out the door, the marina in Florida, the sun on the water, everything gleaming. You find the listing online at 2 in the morning, and you look at the photographs for a long time. You think about the paper cup with 2 small pills sliding across a counter every morning for 26 days. You think about Patricia propping a window open with a textbook and talking fast, carrying those folders for 3 years because she had a feeling she was going to need them someday. You think about your eyes in a bathroom mirror The color of something that should not be that color. You put in an offer the next morning. It is accepted by noon. You do not need a boat. You have never wanted a boat in your entire life. But Edward Hargrove's boat, paid for with 18 million of his dollars, sitting in a Florida marina with a new name painted across the stern. That you need. Patricia cries when she hears what you named it. The boat is named Patricia, you tell her. She said absolutely not. You paint Patricia on it anyway.